It always helps when you know where you're going and you don't have to make changes, but the Chiefs are. Who's the guard they should be going with today on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, everybody. It's Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen. Make another Locked On show your next listen coming up after this. We appreciate you and you locos. You everydayers keep us going, and we appreciate you being here. Make sure you join them on the text line at 816-357-8781. We're going to have some fun as we take more and more away from the OTA process. There is plenty to garner about where this competition is going, and it's only just begun. We're doing a special live show for you today. We appreciate that. We're going to talk about just how deep this group actually is. How far can they get to? Coming up a little later in the show. Who's swinging for the swing tackle and what should it look like by the time we start to see this evolution pipe through? But we start where I think we never start, and that is with the changing of the guards. You had to change the guards because you went and let one go. So with Joe Thuney on a new extension in Chicago, not one of your starting guards. So you had to get some new ones. I think that's as bad as it is to see that transition, especially a guy who gave so much for you last season, was able to jump to tackle when you needed him to, et cetera. You have to take a look at the future, and the future is coming down to a guy that has some experience at the guard spot in Mike Caliendo, and a kid that doesn't have any guard experience, but started a couple of games at left tackle last year, and obviously was a higher draft choice than most for this position, Kingsley Suamataia. They started as probably the two guys vying for the position of left tackle that Joe Thuney no longer occupies. But Trey Smith's not in camps or not at OTAs. So Caliendo gets to go over to right. I think that's actually the best case scenario because I know who I want to win this job, but you got to flesh this out and actually let someone win this job, I think, overall.
You absolutely do. And the question is can Kingsley show that he has the ability to play that position? That's the big question. I think that you and I both feel like he can play in the box and be okay there. I do think that it could be some time for him to transition from, playing outside and his drop and being used to that to, getting in there and playing in a box more and having more of a confined space. But I think it's something he's capable of. And the reality is, you could look at it and say, okay, well, he was drafted in the second round, offensive guard. That really shouldn't be the case. I don't really care. As long as you put the best five guys out there and they protect Patrick Mahomes, that's all I really care about.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It all comes back to that, the basic principle that unfortunately we've had to repeat a couple times over the years when we probably really shouldn't have to, but that's the situation they find them in. So for now, for where it is right now with both of them on the field in OTAs, getting a little bit of a runaround, getting those reps, that timing, getting fresh, this is just the first step in an evolution about who's eventually going to be the starting left guard on this team. You can't rush it all at once. You have to take baby steps, especially with a position change. I actually do feel that it will end up being Kingsley Suamataia because he's the better athlete all the way around. I think he's got better reach. And I think, quite frankly, he's got a lot to prove. And I'm going to say that puts a kid like him with, I won't say family pressure, but family obligations already in the league. I think that gives him more of a goal, more of a chip on his shoulder, something that he needs to prove and improve for. I still feel like that's the way it's going to go at the end.
Yeah, and I think that he has the ability to step in and play that position. The question is can he do it on a regular basis? And while we're trying to figure out right now, can he even step in and understand the playbook? Because I think the reality is there are some reports, and some of it's unsubstantiated, but there are reports that he struggled with the playbook last year. If he's still struggling with the playbook, that could be an issue and something that they got to get figured out now. But if he's able to step in, play a different position, and be successful at it, that's a great sign for, the future. And does he have Pro Bowl capability at left guard? Probably. I don't know, maybe. But the problem is he's also being thrown into the fire literally because he's coming in and following a all-pro that is probably one of the best that's ever played at the position. So it's not going to be fair to compare him to. And that's something he's going to have to deal with for the rest of his career in Kansas City if he's playing that position. So something to watch, and we really won't know, how that's going to shake out until training camp.
I agree with you. I mean, this thing cannot look like the last thing looked. That there's just no way to do that when you don't have a guy named Joe Thuney on this line, and that's okay. There have been other players, guys that have played in this formation, in this group of 5 that will be in offensive line that have gone on to other success. You have a couple of them in Washington, in Wiley and Allegretti there. I've been getting a lot of questions about, do you bring Allegretti back? Folks, he's going to be their starting guard. He's not coming back. But that evolution is what you're looking for, right? Is it a detour with Kingsley? Yes. If he had trouble with the playbook, that's a different obstacle, but one that I do think can still be overcome. I wonder what it does to the depth. And we're going to talk about depth later in the show specifically, but there's going to be this revolving. I think there will be days when Mike Caliendo gets the look, especially once Trey's back and manning the right-hand side, right? Then we're going to get a better feel. We're going to step that up a notch about what this competition is really going to look like.
Yeah, and I mean, you have other guys that you could throw in there as well. I mean, Hunter Norzad's another one you could throw in there. Wanya Morris is another one. We'll talk about him here in a couple minutes, but you want this to be Kingsley Suamataia's job. I mean, this is where you want him to be. This is what you're hoping that he can become because you invested a second-round pick hoping he could be your future left tackle. That hasn't worked out, and it looks like they're already headed in a different direction. And that's okay as long as you're able to get something from it. So you're hoping that you can turn something into, you're hoping that you can turn Kingsley into a guard. And if he's able to do that, then you're going to be in a good situation. And, we're going to talk about swinging for swing tackle here in a couple of minutes. There's a possibility if he doesn't work out at guard, I'm not so sure that he doesn't become their swing tackle or at least somebody that they could be looking at the right tackle position in the future.
There's certainly a possibility for that, although I have a couple of scenarios, and we're going to go over them shortly. The bottom line is what you have in Mike Caliendo, in my opinion. I don't think you're going to see some kind of large change there. So it really is up to the rookie to see how he can impress on his new progression to get to that point. I think it's all in his court from here on out, and we're going to have to see how that goes. But it does take more than just a left guard. It takes tackles. Swing tackle in particular on this team looks like it's going to be a very healthy competition. There are a lot of scenarios to go for it. I know who I want in that role, and it's not the guy that you just might think that has to be there. We're going to explain why coming up next. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means it's time to hire. You need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it free and easy to post for free on your profile with your network and get qualified candidates that you're looking for all in one place. So post your job. The new feature can even help you write job descriptions and then quickly get in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's the pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find the high quality hires right away. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Folks, make sure you check us out. If you don't know us, we've been doing this show for going on 9 seasons. We've covered this team in quite a longer time.
It's amazing it's been that long. Sorry.
It's nuts, right? And Chris does written word very well in a whole different format over at KC Chiefs Corner. I do some written word with a lot of help from my editors over at NFL 33.
A lot of help.
Yeah, that doesn't even cover it. And you can find me at RGR Football as well. Just looking at this group, and we're focusing on this group because this group is where things broke down last season. In what could have been another championship, it's this group that broke down. And we'll talk about how many guys make it to the roster. We'll talk a little bit about depth coming up here in a little bit. But this 53-man, all these projections that we'll do through the summer and through training camp, it all comes back to this. And having not only your best 5 starting, but your best 8, 9, 10 available if you need them. And that's where swing tackle comes in. So right now, with Juwan Taylor not out there, no contract or anything. I think he just needs some time. I'm not going to push him at this point. I think what that tells you is with Wanya Morris taking the reps at right tackle, confirms what we had theorized going back to late last season, that he should be one of the highest candidates for this swing tackle position. But he's not the only one. I would call him the leader, would you?
Probably. And I think that it's hard because people are going to sit here and look at this situation and go, okay, well, you just drafted a first-round tackle. Where's he? And to me, we've talked about this a ton, but I'll say it again here. To me, if he is able to go and you think he's 100% with no chance of re-injury, then I guess you maybe let him go and be the swing tackle. But if you think there's any possibility that him not playing this season is better for him, I'm fine with him shutting them down. And I honestly, I don't like it, but I almost wouldn't be opposed to him being on PUP or NFI all year.
That is definitely a bridge farther than I would like to see, only because the amount of
I want him to practice. I agree, but
yeah, I'm with you. I just feel like, and they keep teasing us with this, that he's out there and he's doing individual drills. He's not participating in team. We're talking about the draft pick, Josh Simmons, who is, by Andy Reid's account, and the beat reporters had to push him on it a little bit, but he is ahead of schedule and he is out there doing individual drills, much as we've seen him do. Pre-combine, it was for about 6.5 seconds. It was a little bit more in rookie mini camp, but the same kind of thing. Against air movement drills on a knee that's been rebuilt. I don't want to say that that's the full extent of it, but it's been surgically repaired. Those are all great signs, but it doesn't mean that he's ready to go there. So for me, that top end of what the expectation should be for this season, for me, for Josh Simmons, is swing tackle. A guy that might come in for a couple of 6 O-lineman plays or might be there in case somebody gets hurt. And that's only if he progresses to the point that you feel he's ready to play. I still probably would not let him go start. I don't think that it is a smart move, but if he really is that healthy and was capable of starting according to the training staff, I would let him stand in as, on a game day, be the tackle backup. I can deal with that because A, the likelihood is low that he would have to go out there. B, the longevity for it, snap count wouldn't be high. But Wanya Morris has something to say about it. It is going to be a competition. And I don't think, as much as I like Wanya going inside as well, that's another option. They're thicker right now, I feel, at the inside positions at guard than they are at tackle. So I really do feel that it is Wanya and Josh Simmons here looking to be in that role behind Juwan Taylor and behind Jalen Moore.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. The question is going to become, is he able to put weight on it? He's able to put weight on it now, but is he able to put the weight of having somebody come after him? That's a much different thing than going against air. So he can be good against air and be just fine, but can he take the pressure that is going to be coming after him when he's playing the tackle position? And that's the big question that you have to get answered. And they've got to get to a point where they got to figure out, okay, how strong is his knee? Is he ready to do that? He's moving enough weight himself, adding, somebody that's going to be, 200-300 pounds coming after him. On top of that, with the added pressure of trying to block somebody and move at the same time, that's a whole different ballgame of pressure and amount of torque that you could be putting on that knee. So can he do it is going to be the big question. And if he can, I'm fine with him being swing tackle. But if they think that he needs another season, if they think he needs more time, I'm fine with that too. I think that the question is going to become, Wanya Morris is probably the guy that they're looking at right now to be that swing tackle until that they feel like Josh Simmons can be cleared to play. I know Andy Reid says he's ahead of schedule, and that's great, and I hope that that's correct. But the other reality is they have another guy in Ethan Driscoll who I don't know is ready to play left tackle, but they liked him last year a lot, enough to keep him on the roster the entire time. I'm not saying that he displaces Wanya Morris, but his ability to move at his size is something that you have to take into consideration as to how this is going to work. And you have to wonder, what was he doing this entire season? Because we never saw him other than that one game at the very end of the season. So what can he do?
That is the biggest question, probably, because that jump from year 1 to year 2 is the thing that we and offensive line coaches bank on. to make that connection. And that's, again, going back to our first conversation, why I think Kingsley really should be the favorite for that role, but also why you have to give whatever exposure you can to Wanya Morris to earn that swing tackle job here. We know he's not in the running to be a starter. I don't think there's any question about that. It is going to be Moore and Taylor for now. Simmons is the wild card. I don't think Wanya Morris is.
No, I agree with that. I don't think that Wanya Morris is a wild card to start. I think he at best is going to be the swing tackle, and that's the big question. We're going to talk about how deep the group is when we're talking about the entire offensive line here in a couple of minutes, but bringing up Ethan Driscoll kind of plays into that as well, because if you're talking about Simmons actually playing this season and Wanya Morris is the guy that you want to be your swing tackle, are you really going to keep 5 tackles on your roster? Because that's what you'd have to do to keep Ethan Driscoll on your roster. You'd have to go probably 10 offensive linemen. Not saying you can't.
Is, right. And that comes down to the pup in the NFI list as well, because there's minutia that has to be done in order to make all those different things happen, depending on what one kid is able to progress to.
Yep.
It all affects the entire makeup of the offensive line, which is deep, but with some limitations, some sore spots. I think this might be the deepest pool of talent in maybe the last 3 or 4 seasons overall. We're going to tell you why right after this. Why is always the best question. You can find out more about what Chris thinks at KC Chiefs Corner. You can find out more about what I think at RGR Football, as well as NFL 33. Now, I didn't get a chance to talk about the wide receivers. Chris locked that down last week. So I'll give you a little bit of Thornton talk here as you guys in the live chat are asking about. I'll give you my take on it here coming up in a little bit. But the depth of this group, these are all good problems to have, right, in having all these conversations. But there's a couple guys we haven't even mentioned yet, including Norzad, who I think is probably someone that should be in the plans for the future at some point. Now, Kingsley and obviously Trey, if a long-term deal is reached, those investments, I think, make him an Allegretti type guy for the future, right?
Which is valuable, insanely valuable. I understand it sounds like, okay, he's just going to be a backup. Doesn't matter. If he can play all 3 interior positions, that's insanely valuable.
Yeah, it would be nuts.
And I wouldn't put it past him to be able to step in at right tackle if they absolutely needed to. I don't want him at left tackle, but I wouldn't be shocked if he could play right tackle on a pinch if needed.
Yeah, I won't argue with you. I mean, there's visual evidence, folks. There's visual evidence. And just because people have been asking about Nick Allegretti in particular, no, he's not going to get let go from Washington unless there's some crazy thing that happens. But the value that he played for the Chiefs is evident in what he's being asked to do in Washington for the hottest young quarterback in the league. And that means something, that when you play in this offense for this team, you have value elsewhere. And I think for Hunter Norzad to come into that role, depending on what happens with all these guard minutiae, that is valuable as well. And I'm not trying to say that anyone else on the roster is not, but I would say he's clearly the primary backup at the interior right now today for me. Where would you have him ranked?
Well, I think he's the primary backup, but to that probably is going to depend on who wins the left tackle or the left guard job. So if Kingsley wins, I would say he's probably still, I don't know that he's the primary backup. Why wouldn't you have Caliendo as your primary backup if Kingsley wins, if those two are the ones that are in the competition? I'm not saying I like it, because I don't think Caliendo has the upside of playing a young guy like Norzad. But I understand that they also like veterans, and they like people that are supposed to be where they're supposed to be, even if they're not really necessarily doing the job that you wish that they were doing, which is, I think, what we've seen from Caliendo to this point. He knows where he's supposed to be, but it hasn't worked out the way that you would want it to. So I think that it makes a lot of sense if he could be the primary backup. I think he's definitely the primary backup for Creed Humphrey, which is big. I would say he's probably also the primary backup maybe for Trey Smith, but I don't know about left guard. It really depends on who ends up winning that job and how that goes.
Yeah, very true. Now, I know what a lot of you are saying out there right now as you listen to us, or if you're watching us live, we very much appreciate if you would hit that thumbs up. That would help us very much. And if you're new to us, make sure you subscribe. Yes, there's names we have not mentioned yet. Everybody made a huge deal about Jermaine Ankrum being signed. I don't think it's a huge factor here, but again, another person at depth that could work his way onto the roster and be a piece that eventually has to perform for this team. Sapole, another tackle. Free agent, yes, but a guy that I had a draftable grade on. That is this year's Ethan Driscoll, so to speak, in that you're just trying to get him to the practice squad as far as I'm concerned. But if everything went to hell in a handbasket and you didn't have this tackle depth that you have right now, a guy that we could project playing in the league, and that we're talking about putting him on the practice squad.
Well, and it's crazy because something we talked about, I don't remember if it's first or second segment, but when you start looking at it and you start talking about the tackle position and you start looking at the fact that if they keep Ethan Driscoll, they're likely keeping 5 tackles. There's no way that they're only going to keep. I mean, that would mean that they would have to keep just Caliendo and Norzad as your backups on the interior.
Yeah. You have 3 backup tackles. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you can't
at that point,
more than 10 is what we're saying, folks.
Right. So at that point, I mean, you're sitting in a situation where you have to figure out, and generally speaking, I would say from everything we've ever seen from Andy Reid, 8 offensive linemen's a guarantee on every roster. Mm-hmm. 9, I would say, is probably 85 to 90% of the time you're going to have 9. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know, 50% of the time you have 10, depends on who's on your roster and who you have. But they're not going to 11. I can't see them possibly going to 11. But so now you're in a situation where you have 3 backup offensive tackles if all of them make it, and Simmons doesn't end up on some IR designation for this season. So now you're talking about, you just drafted Norzad last year. You have Caliendo as a potential backup. You also drafted another kid last year that is going to be cut. Yeah, is going to get cut. And again, we don't know what Hansen looks like because we haven't really seen him play. I mean, we saw a little bit, but it's season 1 to season 2. What is his value? What's he going to look like? How is it going to look different for him? And the reality is when we talk about all these offensive line positions, they can figure that this guy is going to be here and this guy is going to be here. We'll really know how they feel about it when the pads come on in week 2 of training camp. And I don't mean we might not get an idea before that, but generally speaking, the first week of pads, you're going to find out who's really made strides, who's got their technique better, who has better balance, who has their footwork figured out. All of that comes into play once the pads come on, and that is what is going to separate. I hate saying it this way, but that's what's going to separate the men from the boys.
Yeah. Folks, there concludes your monthly PSA about offensive line in OTAs. Not really giving you much information. It is when the pads come on. Just remember, until then, third week of camp. Technically,
no, I'm saying second week because you're going to have the first week of camp where they're going to be going with who they think it will be, and then you'll see adjustments after the first week of camp. They'll have pads on before the second week of camp, but obviously they also have wide receivers and rookies and quarterbacks show up before all of that, so that's a little different. I'm talking like second full week of practice for everybody.
Second full team. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So that's when we'll know. Until then, we'll try to give you insights on what we're seeing, what we're hearing about, and because very unfortunately for us, there's not going to be a whole lot of seeing. The news agencies, the beat reporters will get some, but I think it's every third practice this spring is what we'll have any visibility into. The rest is a complete mystery. So as to Travis Kelce's whereabouts today, so that's fine. We just won't know until we know. So we will keep ticking it along to give you updates so you know what to expect when you do go to training camp. And I know all of you are going to head out there. I'm going to as well. At least I plan to at this point. So a lot to come there. Now, just to step backward for 1 minute, because a lot of you asking about Thornton in particular. I told you, I don't know,
here you go,
weekend before the draft, right? I think he actually has an outside chance to make the roster. Certainly another practice squad gig would be in it. Only because, and I'll give you my perspective and why I said it at the time, and it sounds like it started off well. But again, This is just the first week of OTAs. This doesn't guarantee anything. This has to progress and continue to progress into training camp for Tyquan Thornton and Patrick Mahomes. But the reason is that he was able to make plays in the NFL on a field with a guy named Mac Jones. That says it all. If you can do that, you can help this team with a quarterback like you have in Mahomes. Now, the speed thing, he's got that. He can be a stretcher. He's not Xavier Worthy. I did hear a lot of people commenting about how he's faster than Worthy and Brown. And by my clocks, and I checked all their times, he is not. He is not. But he
may be faster than Brown.
I actually, according to my notes, he is not. But
okay,
that's time.
I thought Brown was
Obviously,
4.3. But
he is what? Now the number escapes me. I think it's 4.32 is what I think. But I'll go back and double check that. I'll have that for you guys because we're not going to be able to escape talking about wide receivers. But this is why they stash guys on the practice squad to take another look at them after they get exposed to the team for a year.
Yeah, and I mean, from what I saw, Tyquan Thornton ran a 4.28. So if that's true, he is one of the fastest on the team, and that speed is still valuable. But it goes back to look at other players that they've had here where they've had a ton of speed and not able to do anything. They had a kid from Cincinnati that went and got drafted, John Ross, got drafted, couldn't do anything at the wide receiver position with all that speed. Not saying that's the same with Tyquan Thornton. Maybe he can step in. Maybe he can become a guy that can contribute to this roster. I would love to see it because if he's contributing to this roster, that gives you a very, very solid 6 wide receivers.
Yes, it does. And to the other question about which are receivers 7 through 10, if that were to happen, he meets the top 3 plus the rookie Royals plus Juju Smith-Schuster, and Thornton makes that, there's your 6. So Sky Moore, they would have to cut him. I think they'd bring him back on the practice squad. I do believe that they would give him another shot to continue. I don't think he's going to get claimed by others. My guess would be that Elijah Badger is on that practice squad, another new name around town. My guess is Nico Romeo is one of those 7 to 10 receivers. And I want to say that I feel like Justin Ross would be, but I'm not 100% certain of that.
Yep. And I will say this, I don't think it'll happen, but until we see what happens at training camp, there's a slim chance that Juju doesn't make the roster. I don't think it's going to go that direction.
Agreed.
But if he's lost a step, we won't really know that until training camp. So True. That's when you're really going to know what you're going to have with Juju. And if he's lost a step, he already wasn't very fast. So that really would be something that you have to, consider there. I still think he's going to be on the roster. I don't think that's going to be the case, but you look at this and I agree. Sky Moore, Badger, Nico Remigio, Justin Ross. I know people love him. I know that he has ability and can do things that some of the other wide receivers on this roster can't. But the problem is he also can't do some of the things that 90% of the wide receivers on this roster can. That's why he hasn't been playing.
Don't worry, folks. We're going to cover the wide receivers more as soon as we see them again, which will be soon. And we'll see if the Chiefs have changed their philosophy. It is supposedly more let it rip. Let's get it down the field. Maybe that includes jump balls, which are his forte, which would give him, I think, a better opportunity to make the roster. And we will update you as soon as we know anything about that. So the point being, make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure you're tuned in all week long, all summer long, because we're going to have content for you. We're going to have updates for you the whole way. Do not fret. I saw one last question come in. I do want to answer that. The only update I have on Wiley is that he is available, but he is sidelined. He is not practicing. So not cleared is the read that I get from that. Did you hear anything different?
No, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I don't really care if he's not practicing. Make sure he's healthy and ready to go for training camp. Running against errors, yeah, it could help him, but I'd get him ready for training camp. He's got a month and a half, so yeah, get him ready for that.
He is a watcher at this point, and we will keep watch on him. You keep watch on us, and that's how the world will go round. Thank you for being with us. Make sure you like and sub and hit the bell. Hit the next Locked On show next after this. We would very much appreciate it. And thanks for being with us live on this special one. We're going to throw these in every now and then as we go through the offseason. So please make sure that you have us bookmarked and you have that little bell clicked on if you're on your mobile so that you can get notifications. So thank you again. We hope that you are off to a good start this week like the Chiefs are, and we hope that they will continue it much like we do. Thanks for listening today, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.